The Gospel of Mark. The need for rest. Mark 6:30-31. Introduction. 1. One might easily conclude that the Bible is all about work and no play. A. It speaks negatively about sloth and idleness. Proverbs 6:11. 1 Timothy 5:13. B. It speaks positively about labor and work. Ephesians 4:28. 1 Thessalonians 4:11. 2. Yet Jesus spoke of the need to rest. A. After his disciples had returned from fulfilling the limited commission. Mark 6:30. B. Encouraging them to come aside to a deserted place and rest a while. Mark 6:31. The apostles gathered themselves together to Jesus, and they told him all things, whatever they had done, and whatever they had taught. He said to them, You come apart into a deserted place, and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. Mark 6:30-31. 1. The need for rest. A. Illustrated by the Sabbath. 1. God rested on the seventh day. Genesis 2:1-2. 2. The principle of rest served as the basis for the Sabbath. Genesis 2:3, which later was commanded of the Israelites as a weekly observance. Deuteronomy 5:12-15. Clearly God approved of taking time to rest on a regular basis. B. Illustrated by other Jewish holidays. 1. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, with 2 days of rest. Leviticus 23:5-8. 2. The Feast of Harvest, Pentecost, 1 day of rest. Leviticus 23:21. 3. The Feast of Trumpets, 1st day of 7th month, 1 day of rest. Leviticus 23:23-25. 4. The Day of Atonement, 10th day of 7th month, 1 day of rest. Leviticus 23:26-32. 5. The Feast of Tabernacles, 15th day of 7th month, 2 days of rest. Leviticus 23:33-36. 6. Included with several of the above were: A. Required trips to Jerusalem. Leviticus 23:14-17. Deuteronomy 16:16. B. 7-day feasts, including 1 week of living in tents. Leviticus 23:42. 7. These were in addition to the weekly Sabbaths. Approximately 70 days each year no customary work was to be done. 2. Taking time to rest. A. 2 dangers to avoid. 1. Too much work. A. No man can work without rest, and no man can live the Christian life unless he gives himself times with God. B. How can we shoulder life's burdens if we have no contact with Him who is the Lord of all good life? C. How can we do God's work unless in God's strength? D. How can we receive that strength unless we seek in quietness and in loneliness the presence of God? 2. Too much withdrawal. A. Devotion that does not issue in action is not real devotion. B. Prayer that does not issue in work is not real prayer. C. We must never seek the fellowship of God in order to avoid the fellowship of men, but in order to fit ourselves better for it. D. The rhythm of the Christian life is the alternate meeting with God in the secret place and serving men in the marketplace. These thoughts come from Barclay's Daily Study Bible. B. 2 types of rest. 1. Physical rest, to refresh the body. A. Such as a good night's sleep, afternoon naps. B. Vacations involving travel, dining with friends. The Old Testament feasts. C. Benefits: less stress, weight control, memory performance, overall good health. 2. Spiritual rest, to refresh the spirit. A. Such as a daily devotional period. B. Special times devoted to prayer, meditation on God's Word. Philippians 4:6-9. C. Benefits: a closer walk with God, inner renewal, peace of mind. Body and soul both need periods of rest. C. 2 suggestions to consider. 1. Making time. A. Schedule for periodic rest. B. Isaac liked the evening. Genesis 24:63. C. David and Daniel liked morning, noon, and evening. Psalms 55:17. Daniel 6:10. D. Jesus preferred early morning. Mark 1:35. E. Remember also the Old Testament weekly and annual rests as an example of systematic rest. 2. Choosing location. A. Find places that allow for privacy in the case of personal devotions. B. Isaac liked the field. Genesis 24:63. C. David meditated on his bed. Psalms 4:63-6. D. Daniel prayed in his room. Daniel 6:10. E. Jesus preferred deserted places. Mark 1:35 and 6:31. F. Remember also the Old Testament feasts as example of celebratory rest with others. These suggestions are simply to stimulate your thinking. Conclusion. 1. The life of the Christian is more of a marathon than a sprint. A. We need to have endurance. Hebrews 10:36 and 12:1. B. Lest we fall short of reaching our rest. Hebrews 4:1 and 9-11. 2. To reach our heavenly rest, we need both. A. Diligence in serving the Lord. B. Diligence in taking time to rest. 3. Some Christians fail to maintain a proper balance. A. Suffering physically as a result, poor health. B. Suffering spiritually as well, emotional and mental burnout. As physical strength requires both exercise and rest, so it is with spiritual strength. We can be thankful that in the wisdom of God there is to be opportunity for both. Then Jesus said, "Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while." Mark 6:31. The end. The Gospel of Mark. The need for rest. Mark 6:30-31.